Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As we have been doing through this Khamsa, today is the last day of our 5-day program before we start the next one starting Tuesday. And we will once again start off today's program by inviting Brother On Muhammad Siddiqui to start us off with the tilawat of the Quran. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهوى ووجدك آئل فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
MashaAllah. Please recite another salawat for Brother On Muhammad Siddiqui. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And continuing with our efforts to have our youth involved, I would now like to invite our brother Jafar Ali Beg to recite the salam. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات. يا كاشف الكرب عن وجه الحسين اكشف كربي بحق أخيك الحسين ساكي على أبا الفاز تشنى لب كربلاء بالفاز تشمع ببكاء بالفاز تشمع ببكاء بالفاز يا بالفاز يا بالفاز أبا الفاز يا بالفاز يا بالفاز کرب شبی کے چہرے سے مٹانے والے رنج سے آل محمد کو چھڑانے والے تھام لے ہاتھ پریشان عزاداروں کا اے سکینہ کے لیے بازو کتانے والے ابا الفاظ یا ابا الفاظ یا ابا الفاظ ابا الفاظ یا ابا الفاظ یا ابا الفاظ تو چاہے نہ میری سے امید ہے ہم میری زخموں کا فقط آپ ہو غازی مرہم اربعین پہ ہم بلوال زیارت کے لیے آپ کو پہلو شکستہ کسی بی بی کی قسم ابا الفاظ یا ابا الفاظ يا أبا الفضل أبا الفضل يا أبا الفضل يا أبا الفضل ہم کو دنیا کا طرفدار نہ ہونے دینا صرف باتوں کا آزادار نہ ہونے دینا صدقہ شہزادی رقیہ کے بندے ہاتھوں کا ہم کو مشکل میں گرفتار نہ ہونے دینا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل لکھ تو تقدیر میں پھر کربلا جانا غازی اپنا دربار ہمیں جلد دکھانا غازی واسطہ دیتا ہوں زخمی علی اکبر کا تمہیں کربلا سار جوانوں کو بلانا غازی ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل اس گئی نظروں میں عاشور کی اوداد آئی آنسو آنکھوں میں بھرے ہونٹوں پہ فریاد آئی سامنے پانی تھا اور پی بھی نہیں سکتا تھا مجھ کو روزے میں تیری پیاس بہت یاد آئی ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل تم ہو شبیر کی بیٹی کا سہارا غازی بن تمہارا نہ ہوا اس کا گزارا غازی شمع میں جب بھی سکینہ کو تماچے مارے اس نے بابا کو نہیں تم کو پکارا غازی ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل یا ابا الفضل صلوات
نعرہ تکبیر اللہ اکبر یا رسول اللہ یا رسول اللہ یا علی Jazakallah, brother Jafar Ali Beg. Now we will be passing it over to the sisters. I'd like to invite Sister Samana Batul to recite her speech. I will just pass over the mic right away, and inshallah we will hear from Sister Samana Batul. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Salawat. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today I would like to discuss a significant aspect of our faith that is deeply rooted in the teachings of Islam. It is a story of triumph, guidance, and hope for the future. It begins with the trials of our Prophet Ibrahim. I want to reflect on a verse from Surah Baqarah, verse 124, which reminds us of the greatness of Prophet Ibrahim himself and the promise that Allah made to him. In this verse, Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَائِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Remember when Ibrahim was tested by his Lord with certain commandments which he fulfilled? Allah said, I will certainly make you into a role model for the people. To this, Prophet Ibrahim replied, Qala wa min zuriyati. What about my descendants? And Allah answered to him, Qala la yanalu ahdiz zalimin. My covenant is not extended to the wrongdoers. Allah tested Prophet Ibrahim by giving him specific commandments, which he fulfilled with unwavering faith and devotion. In return, Allah promised to make him a role model for all of humanity. And when Prophet Ibrahim asked him about the fate of his descendants, Allah replied, My promise does not extend to the wrongdoers. And so this promise was fulfilled by providing us with leaders, the successors of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who are the imams who have been bestowed with divine knowledge to guide and assist us. These imams have dedicated their lives to preserving the faith of Islam, which stands for peace, justice, and equality. Throughout history, one after the other, the imams fulfilled their duty, upholding the principles of Islam, ensuring the well-being of the ummah and striving to remove inequality and oppression. Now, in our time, we are awaiting for the return of the last Imam, who is prophesied to bring peace and justice to the world like never before. Imam Mahdi holds a special place in our hearts, as his arrival marks the fulfillment of the promise that Islam will be enough for all mankind. He will defend and secure the right path of Allah and remove our worries, bringing a final end to inequality and oppression. However, you may wonder, what should we do while we wait for his reappearance? Or some might question what they should follow when they cannot physically see him. And the answer lies in following the same traits of the successors that were promised to Prophet Ibrahim. Following in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad and our Imams, and the companions to our Imams, companions like Imam Hussein's, who we shed tears over during this month of Muharram, those like Habib ibn Mazahir or Muslim bin Aqil. To embody the traits of these noble companions, we need guidance. And that guidance comes to us in the form of the Holy Quran. The Quran is not merely a book of verses. It is a divine manual for life, containing guidance for every aspect of our existence. Through its verses, we find the essence of justice, unity, and compassion that the awaited Savior embodies himself. In our journey of self-improvement, the Quran acts as an instrument to illuminate our minds and enrich our souls. Its teachings invite us to delve into the depths of its verses, seeking wisdom and understanding that can be applied to our daily lives. One such verse, found in Surah Hujurat, ayat 13, states, O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes so that you may know each other. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. In these words, the Quran reveals the essence of true equality, transcending the superficial boundaries of race, wealth, or social status. It tells us to recognize that our worth lies not in the materialistic measures of this world, but in the purity of our hearts and the sincerity of our devotion. By internalizing this message, we are inspired to look past prejudice and embrace one another with respect and compassion. Another verse in Surah Maida, ayat 8, discusses an important message, saying, Stand firm for Allah and bear true testimony. Do not let the hatred of people lead you to injustice. Be just, as that is closer to righteousness. And be mindful of Allah. Surely Allah is all aware of what you do. Within these words lies a guiding principle to shape our actions and interactions. It urges us to follow cooperation, righteousness, and piety, while avoiding the paths of sin and aggression. By embracing this guidance, we are steered towards building a society that thrives on harmony and equity, where the pursuit of justice takes priority over one's personal matters. When we incorporate such teachings into our lives, we become closer to the Imam of our time, for he embodies these noble qualities to perfection. As we strive to be the best versions of ourselves, we align our souls with the Imam's mission of restoring peace, justice, and happiness to humanity. Let us remember that the divine promise of Imam Mehdi's arrival brings with it a renewed sense of hope and purpose for us as Muslims. Let us strive to be the best versions of ourselves, guided by the principles of Islam and the examples set by our beloved Prophet and his noble companions. May Allah grant us the wisdom and strength to follow the right path and be deserving of the blessings that Imam Mehdi will bring to the world. Salawat.
Jazakallah khair, sister. I'd like to now invite our team of youth, brothers Abbas, Musa, Ittiza, and Basil to recite the Marsiyah. But Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, salawat. One of you guys can hold this too. Ya Rasulullah.
Salawat. دیار کوفہ میں جب آل مصطفیٰ آئے، دیار کوفہ میں جب آل مصطفیٰ آئے، تو ایک خلق تماشے کو جا بجا آئی، رسول پاک کی عطرت جو بے ردا آئی، صدائے گریہ زہرا و مرتضیٰ آئی، صدائے گریہ زہرا و مرتضیٰ آئی، نیا ستم تک رونے کو جیتا راستا، نبی کی آل پہ پتھر کا میں برستا، نبی کی آل پہ پتھر کا میں برستا، حرب نے پیشیے دربار کی خبر جو بلا کے شمر لئی کو پکاری بنت، سنا ہے 700 کرسی نشی وہاں ہے، ہمیں ردا تو اڑا دے کہ ہم ہیں آل، ہمیں ردا تو اڑا دے کہ ہم ہیں آل، پکارا ہنس کے ستم گر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا، تمہیں نصیب ہو چادر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا، تمہیں نصیب ہو چادر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا، یہ سون کے اہل حرم دل پہ داغ کھا کے چلے، اسی طرح سے وہ ناچار سر جھکا کے چلے، ہجوم عام میں دکھ سے کے غم اٹھا کے چلے، لئی کی بزم میں بالوں سے منہ چھپا کے چلے، لئی کی بزم میں بالوں سے منہ چھپا کے چلے، در امیر پہ کیا کیا نہ شور و شر دیکھا، لکھا ہے واسر مسلم لہو میں ترد، لکھا ہے واسر مسلم لہو میں ترد، وہ فرق دیکھ کے بولی یہ زینب ناچا، میرے غریب برادر میں تیرے سر کے، مگر حسین کے سر سے ہوئی جو آنکھیں، قریب آ کے تھما فرق سید اب، قریب آ کے تھما فرق سید اب، ندا یہ آئی کہ اے شاہ السلام علی و فاطمہ کے ماہ السلام علی و فاطمہ کے ماہ السلام پس فنا بھی انافات میں گرا مولا کے بام سے تنے بے سر میرا گرا مولا بندہ تپاؤ میں رسی کا ایک سرا مولا تمام شہر میں لاشا کے چا پھرا مولا تمام شہر میں لاشا کے چا پھرا مولا خبر دگا کی امام غیور تک نہ حضور کیا میری آرزو حضور تک نہ گئی حضور کیا میری عرضی حضور تک نہ گئی میں لکھ چکا تھا کہ یثرب کی سمت جائے حضور خدا کے واسطے تشریف یہاں نہ لائے سپاہ ظلم سے دھوکا کہیں نہ کھائے دگا میں تاکہ ہے کوفی ادھر نہ آئے دگا میں تاکہ ہے کوفی ادھر نہ آئے لکھا تھا یہ بھی کہ بچے بلا میں پڑ گئے جو ساتھ آئے تھے دونوں یہاں بچھڑ گئے جو ساتھ آئے تھے دونوں یہاں بچھڑ گئے سر حسین پکارا کہ ہائے اے بھائی عجب علم کے یہ کلمے سنائے اے بھائی بن زیاد نے کیا کہہ ردائی اے بھائی پیام آپ کے ہم تک نہ آئی اے بھائی پیام آپ کے ہم تک نہ آئی اے بھائی ولا کے بن میں وہ مظلوم بھی شہید ہوئے ہمارے ساتھ وہ معصوم بھی شہید ہوئے ہمارے ساتھ وہ معصوم بھی شہید ہوئے دیار کوفہ میں صلوات
Jazakallah khair. Please recite another loud salawat. As you are aware, today is the fifth and final program in our from our Khamsiya program, and we do have a few more programs after this. The Khamsiyan and Sajjadiyya starts on Tuesday, and we'll have another set of programs closer to Arba'in. But at this stage, I'd like to take the opportunity to, on behalf of our community, say Jazakallah khair to Molana Hassan Mujtaba Rizvi for taking the time to visit our community and enlightening our youth, engaging our youth as well as our elders, and sharing his knowledge. So today, again, I'd like to invite him to the mimbar and continue his speech. So, Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا رحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. All praise and glory belongs to Allah, the one who has given us the ability and also the potential to be able to look through the deception, to look through the mirage that is created by our open enemy and also our hidden enemy. The open enemy we mentioned to you is Shaitan. Shaitan's name is not Shaitan, his name is Harith. And Shaitan is a quality of Shaitana, which means deception. So anything that would deceive a human being from looking at what is actually real. So if you want another word, it would be distortion of reality. So if anything or anyone distorts reality, deceives, then that person or that thing or that system or that government can be called Shaitan. So it can be a human being, it can be a jinn, it can be a government, it can be a system, it can be an ideology, it can be an ism. So any of these things that distort reality and bring human beings away from what is real, we can call it Shaitan. What we've been talking about, this is the 5th hour, and it was just an effort to have us realize that it's quite possible that me and you are stuck in a virtual world or a dream world where reality is distorted for us. And then when we die, we wake up and we find out. But at that time, it's of no use. Karbala and the events of Kufa and Sham got humanity to wake up to what is real and get away from the deception. If you wanted to take a look at the history of Azhar, it's you can kind of debate it in history, but in the Indian subcontinent where our roots are, some historians, they say that it dates back to 1300 century. So 13th century, we are in 2023. You do the math, that's how long Azhar has been out in the open, or the opportunity to have the Azhar in public or in the gatherings that we have. Although the first individuals who started the mourning of Imam Hussaini were the survivors of Karbala. And from the time period that they started their journey as a prisoner, throughout this journey, they were mourning Imam Hussaini and waking people up. So Imam Sajjad and the prisoners, whichever place that they went through, they woke people up. And we have sermons of Imam Sajjad and Bibi Zainab that actually woke those individuals who were there to celebrate Mazallah, the killing of Imam Hussain, his companions and his family. So the history goes quite far back. Okay. Because it's one of those things that can wake a human being and have them realize what actually is real. That's why the enemy, our open enemy and also the enemy within, has tried their utmost best to distort this reality of azab. I mean, in the beginning, this azab was in the hands of kings. So it came out on the street with the same sort of glory as the king's glory. And then the ulama took the responsibility of preaching and giving the message of Imam Hussain, but majority of these scholars, they were paid by the king. So they actually became paid agents of the king. So they could not say anything about the principle that Imam Hussain stood, that if you see oppressive government or oppressor ruler, that you need to say something about it. You need to stand up against that oppression. They could not do it because they were getting paid. And then these individuals also, when they would speak to the people, they would have different, age levels and different levels of understanding. And they were very used to a very scholarly sort of environment in which they had the students. And so they kind of slowly went away from that. And they just decided to stay in the madrasas or in the, institutions of knowledge. And the space for that got empty. So the space was left empty. Certain individuals who were entertainers, they would sing, they would entertain people, they would excite people. They had good voices, they knew the body language of people, they knew how to project their body language to excite people and to make them their fans. They started taking this opportunity to start doing the preaching or quote-unquote message of Imam Hussain. And they were not really, at that time, not respected. The community that they were in, they were not respected. They were shunned, actually. I even remember my grandmother, when she would see an individual on the TV doing a comedy show, she would cry. And when you would ask her, like, why are you crying? She would say that he looks like an honorable person, but to sustain himself, look how he's making himself a joke. Right? He has to pretend to be like this so that he can earn money. Right? So in that time, they took over and they used their entertainment skills. They got fans. They had the voice. They knew how to excite people. They were getting money. They were getting food that was, for the rich, for example, or someone that you would honor, you would cook that food. So they were getting money, they were getting respect, and they were getting food that had a lot of oil. So now they took the azab, they distorted reality that way, and the masses of people started to attend. And then after that, the scholars, they kind of realized that, okay, the space has become now, like, people are now coming and listening to us when we are reading the Masa'ib, or we're doing the azah, or we are, giving the message of Imam Hussain. So then they came, now the libas and the attire is of a scholar, and they have their sahib mu'ammim, but their tongue is of a zakir. Right. So meaning they left the scholarly things, and now they look like a scholar. And when you ask them, well, I've studied 25 years, I've studied 30 years. For example, Ayatollah Bahjat has put the amama on my head. But when you listen to their speech, and you listen to them speak, it's the same thing that a zakir would do. Nothing scholarly, just, taking people, entertaining people, choosing those topics that are going to get them the most amount of praise and the most amount of money and the most amount of popularity. It's amazing whenever the mic and this and that goes, how fast your attention goes to the person fixing the mic and you lose me. That's why perhaps it's very difficult for us to grasp something to the depth that it should be. Because our attention span is now 8 to 12 seconds, and that's a few years back when they did the study. They said a person's average attention span is 8 to 12 seconds. I would say now it's even less. What attention span means is that you can only concentrate for 8 seconds. After 8 seconds, you no longer have the attention of what you're doing. Your mind will take you somewhere else. And then when your mind takes you somewhere else, for 8 seconds you can be attentive to where it has taken you. Then after 8 seconds, you go back to something else. And we get to that, it only takes 8 seconds, and then you go back to something else. So if I'm going to speak to you for 1 hour, have you seen those pinball machines? So the mind becomes like that. Pin, 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 pin. Don't come as a participant, come as a student. Don't come here as a warm body. Imam Hussain doesn't need warm bodies. The carpet doesn't need your warmth. You know, we have so many warm bodies, the ACs are not helping, the fans are not helping, you know. Don't come as a warm body, come as a student. And when you come to the first Azza as a student, you walk on the wings of angels. What you're losing out is the respect the angels can show you because you're going as a student to Farsh Azza, to the house of the Imam. We lose that respect. So the persona is, now this is where the Azadari is, and I've taken you from the 13th century up to now. So the persona is that the person is a scholar, has the abakaba, has a mama on their head, and they say a mama has been put by Ayatollah Bahjat, by Ayatollah Nasir Makam Shirazi, by Ayatollah Tahriri and so forth, are great scholars. But the tongue of that person is nothing but that tongue of a zakir, the entertainer. That they're there to entertain people, they're there to excite people, they're there so that the person afterwards says, "Bahut maza aaya." Kya baat thi, bahut lutf aaya. Yani majlis azaa ke andar jo aa raha hai, wo lutf lene aa raha hai. मज़ा लेने आ रहा है। वो कहेंगे कि नहीं, ये जो लुत्फ़ है, ये मज़ा जो है ना, वो ज़हन का है। ज़हन की अयाशी से दीन समझ में नहीं आता। किसी कौम को ज़हन की अयाशी से दीन समझ में नहीं आया, बल्कि वो दीन से खेले हैं। दीन से खेला जाता है। Basically, just like you watch a sporting event, you're entertained. So now they're getting the same amount of popularity, they're getting the money, they have fans, they go to a particular place, there's thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people there. This is distortion of reality. And the distortion of reality puts the person in that dream world into a virtual world where they think everything is okay. Whereas the azan of Imam Hussain was there so that you can and I can wake up. So you can realize from the 13th century what has been going on with the azan of Imam Hussain and what's been going on is nothing but distortion of reality, and we need to wake up and do something about it. But rather than doing something about it, we actually become participants into the same entertainment sort of quote-unquote industry, where the person will not speak unless and until the rate is fixed. They will be auctioned. Whoever is the higher bidder, they will be able to have that person speak. Auction, bidding, right? And then haggling. The person will say, I will take, $10,000, for example, for the Majlis. And the other person will say, okay, you know what, we'll give you 12, you come to us. He'll call up the other person and say, okay, you want me to come? Someone is offering me 12, how much are you going to offer? He said, okay, I'll offer you 13. Okay. And then the ones who are inviting them, they also start haggling with them. Haggling, you understand? वो कीमत को कम कराने के चक्कर में आप आका साहब आ जाए ना, आपको हम इतनी दाद देंगे. Now this person, this so-called sort of like who has the libas of an alim, who has studied 25, 26 years, who's claiming that, not that claim, it would be such that the amama has been put on his head by Ayatollah Bahjat. When he's sitting on the mimbar, he is sitting there for a purpose. The purpose is to get the praise. The purpose is to get the popularity. The purpose is to fill his pockets. Now guess what? When from this distorted reality he wakes up, he will have nothing for it. Why would he have nothing? Because what you wanted, you got it in this world. You wanted praise, you got praise. You wanted $10,000 for a majlis, you got $10,000 for a majlis. You wanted fans, your YouTube account and your speeches are getting thousands and thousands of views. You got what you came for. Now that you've woken up to the real world, you have nothing. You have nothing. There was one tradition I was looking at, a timeline or time frame that is given is for us to kind of get our mind closer to. It says that the rich will get into heaven after 500 years than the poor. One of the tradition from the Holy Prophet that the rich would have to wait for 500 years and the poor will get in. Why do the rich have to wait around for 500 years to get into heaven? Because they're going to be asked questions. What did you do with the money that was given to you? And they have to answer that. The poor who didn't have the money, they're not going to be asked about the wealth that they had. It's the same thing for knowledge. Knowledge is the greatest wealth. A person who has knowledge will be asked more questions than a person who's ignorant. So this sort of virtual world we're living at, and then things just become, just distorted, and we are the same way, and the people who are inviting and the people who are listening and the speakers, they're all involved in this heinous crime. I will not call this azaa of Imam Hussain, I will call it a heinous crime. And this heinous crime is being committed against the ideology, the principles, the sacrifice, the purpose of Imam Hussain. And it has no value in front of the real world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created of jaza and saza. There's no value. People fight to come on the first row as if there's more blessings in the first row than the last row. They'll fight for salah that they want to stand in the first row. If they don't get the first row, they get upset with the other person. Right? Because they want to get to the first row and show to the other people that they are standing in the first row, or they think they own this musalla because they might have given some money to the center. Although this musalla doesn't have their name either. If there was a name, okay, this is Flan Flan Musalla, you can only stand there, you cannot stand there. That person's salah has no value in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this salah actually becomes the reason that he will be thrown into the fire of hell as a punishment for that shirk that he has done. Riya is polytheism. You'll be resurrected on the day of judgment as khasir, someone who is lost. In the distorted reality, he seems like, oh, I'm praying namaz. In the real world, in the virtual world, two people are talking, देखा उसको बड़ा सलाम भी नहीं किया था, ऐसे ही आ गया अंदर, हमेशा ऐसे ही है ये, पता नहीं क्या समझता अपने आप को, शक्ल सूरत से तो कुछ नहीं लगता, ना कोई उसकी जॉब है ना कुछ और है, ऐसे ही मसलन अपने आप में पता नहीं किस घमंड में रहता. Two people talking, you come up to them and you say, Aga, this is backbiting. If you can't say this in front of the face of the person, it's backbiting. You say, I'm not doing backbiting. I'm just saying the truth. Well, the truth is backbiting. If you were to lie about something, that's insult, that's tohin, that's tuhmat, that's false accusation. In the virtual world, it's just a conversation, nothing more. In the real world, they're actually sitting and eating the flesh of a dead body. That's what the reality of that conversation is. Remember our sisters as well, our brothers too, they all participate, right? They all participate in tale telling. You know what tale telling is? उर्दू में क्या कहते हैं उसको? tale telling, चुगलखोरी. A person who is a tale teller on the day of judgment would have the same punishment as murder. You want to find out whether it is such and such, you can take a look at the greater sins that is written by Ayatollah Dasghaib Shirazi Rahmatullah. You can go read it. हम तो कुछ नहीं कह रहे थे, हमने तो क्या किया, हमने तो कुछ भी नहीं किया. The tale telling in community from the brother side and the sister side becomes responsible after 1 year, 2 years, after a few months, for not only the community to be hurt, but our generations that I have seen them grow up lose hope in the elders. And when they lose hope in the elders, they do not come to the house of the Imam. Their only shelter in all of the fire that is around us in this system, the only shelter, because of the way we are, we have them lose even this shelter, the only shelter. And then afterwards the youths, they go astray, they get into different things, and then we are wondering what happened. Humne to kuch nahi kiya. Basically, you became responsible for a parent to feel as if their son has died for them. You are responsible for murder. When a son and daughter leaves the house, goes astray, gets into things that it should not. For the parents, if they take the stand, they say that my son is dead. You are dead to me. They feel robbed. They feel as if their son is dead. And if the son goes and does things so much, then they say, I wish you were dead, that I would not have to see this day. Who is responsible? In the distorted world that we live in, we think of ourselves. These are not the qualities of a mu'min. These are not the qualities of a Shia. These are not qualities of a Muslim. These are not qualities of someone who's God conscious. These are not the qualities of the Azadar of Imam Hussaini alayhi salam. There was a khutbah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Molana had mentioned, Molana Hadi Hassan had mentioned in his Jummah khutbah, and it's 82 or 81, you can look it up. It's a very small sermon, and I'm not going in detail about it because I was already explained it. But when I was listening to him, it inspired me to perhaps connect it to the topic that we have. And the same 81 or 82, the reason I say 81 or 82 is because of the translation. Sometimes the sermons can be one or two up or down. This is not the only time that Imam has spoken about dunya. There are many, many different sermons that Imam has about dunya. And one of the youths came up, and perhaps whatever the half an hour or something that we have, he said that, okay, you know, you told us about the worldly love, that worldly love is what actually martyred Imam Hussain and brought up all of the different hardships for Ahlul Bayt and the Holy Prophet. And then we see ourselves, okay, we have to go for a job as well, we have to earn money, we have to have a house, we have to have a car. You know, we have to do things that are worldly. So how do you match the two together? Okay. I'm going to pause here so that wherever that ball in the ping pong machine has gone, come back. The word dunya, daniya, the word in itself in Arabic, it just relates to something which is low. Something which is low is neither good nor bad. It's low. Like you have a building, you have the first floor, it's low. The second, third, fourth, 100 floors, first floor. Just because it's the first floor, does it mean that it is bad? No. The first floor. Then, when you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that, you know, I've created all of these things and these are my ayat. So, Quranic verses is also a verse, and a tree is also a verse, meaning a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the tree is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ocean is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wind is the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You and I are the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are His signs. Right? Now don't go over there and say, okay, because Molana said that I'm Ayat, then I'm also Ayatullah. No, it doesn't make you Ayatullah like this. Although there are people who have given themselves this title, specifically just based on the fact that, oh yeah, everything is Ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm also an Ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therefore I'm Ayatullah. There are people right now living, I know witnesses that have seen them, talk to them, and this is the reasoning that they give, that I'm Ayatullah because everything is ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't become ayatullah this way. Because what is meant there is someone who has gone through the institution of Hausa, gone through a certain level of understanding, gone through a certain level of depth, And from going to that depth, someone else called him or that person an Ayatollah. Not that they themselves said, today I'm an Ayatollah. No. Our great scholars, even if you call them Hujjatul Islam, they will start crying. They will say, this is how orphaned Islam has become, that I am now a proof of it. They would not accept even that title somebody would give it. Hujjatul Islam means the proof of Islam. You know what else is the proof of Islam? The Asa of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. So I mean, okay, people want to give titles, okay, but you don't give the title to yourself. I am high. H.I. Masan, Hujjatul Islam. You don't give yourself this title. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created is a sign. Okay? You're living in it. How is it that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything as a sign, and He says that this is the best of the system, that this world is going to be shunned? That makes sense? Was Imam Ali alayhi salam saying, and I will mention that tradition inshallah. Imam has different, like I said, different sayings about the world. He says, in one of the traditions, he says that dunya is like an old woman with leprosy who's holding the intestines of pig. The imagery is that ugly. You got the imagery. The animal in itself, if you look at in Takween, it's an animal. But in relation to us, it's najis. But what Imam is saying, that this is what dunya is. The imagery he gives is an old woman with leprosy. Leprosy is basically when your skin is coming off. When the blisters and all that, pus is there and it's just melting and holding the intestines of that animal. And dunya, in other traditions as well, that dunya is the source of all evil. If you love this world, it is the source of all evils, meaning all sins, all mistakes, all of that emits from what? The love of this world. So when we have those traditions, and then you also have, going for working and earning your livelihood is worship. Yeah? So you have that tradition, working is worship. And then also raising children. There's so many merits in Islam of raising children and taking care of them. There's such a reward given. One time Imam Hussaini was sitting down, and his daughter came and started complaining about her children, that they do so much, they're so naughty, it's so hard, and it's so hard to raise them. And he said to his daughter, he said, look, any day you want, give me the reward of raising them, and I will give you the reward of my worship. इमाम खुमैनी कहते हैं अपनी दुख्तर से कि आपके पास जो सवाब आए ना इन बच्चों को बड़ा करने का, किसी दिन भी आप चाहो ना तो ये जो सवाब है ये मुझे दे दो, और मेरी जो इबादतों का सवाब है वो आप ले लो. अभी हमारे ज़हन में हम उसको कंप्यूट नहीं कर सकते कि इमाम खुमैनी के इबादतों का सवाब का क्या पहाड़ होंगे. So there is value in raising children. There is value. If you have a house that protects you from the rain and it gives you shelter, it's because you wanted comfort. You're seeking comfort, and this seeking comfort is actually you're seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ये बात थोड़ी ज़हन में आई? अगर आपने घर बनाया ना, तो ये जो घर बनाना ना, ये उस जगह से ये चीज निकली है, फितरत यानी आपकी तबीयत से, कि आपको आराम चाहिए, आपको सुकून चाहिए। और सुकून और आराम जो है वो खुदा की सिफात में से। आपको हकीकत में खुदा चाहिए, आपको घर नहीं चाहिए, आपको खुदा चाहिए। लेकिन क्योंकि आप उस मजाज में फंसे हुए हैं, तो अब आपको घर चाहिए, खुदा नहीं चाहिए। आपको एक साया चाहिए, खुदा साया है। लेकिन क्योंकि हम लोग मजाज में फंसे हुए हैं, तो हमें ऐसे लगता है कि हमें साया चाहिए, हमें शेल्टर चाहिए। नहीं, आपको एक्चुअली हर चीज में खुदा चाहिए। आपको खुशी चाहिए, खुदा खुद खुशी है। आपको अगर इंसान को खुशी चाहिए, वो एक्चुअली खुदा को चाह रहा है, वो खुशी को नहीं चाह रहा। वो मजाज में, सिंबल्स में, वसीलों में फंस जाता है, समझता है यही है। हर चीज, every single thing that a human being ever will desire, whether that human being is a good person or a bad person, all of their desires indirectly leads to say that what I want is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. आज का जो फिरौन भी है ना, अगर वो ताकत चाहता है ना, तो एक्चुअली चाह खुदा को रहा है, क्योंकि ताकत कदीर कादिर कौन है? खुदा की जात है। You see, so when you're living in this world and you're going after these things, now I'm going to try to have it all connected. This is also one way, if you think, is actually all of these things in the world that you are looking forward to or you're going and wanting to attain, actually indirectly is the fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, the nature that is given to you, that you're actually seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you get stuck in those things that are symbols and means and nothing but the pleasures of this world. This is one angle. Okay. Second angle, should I make the statement first, or we'll go through the exercise? Can you see me? Your eyes can see me? Yes? No, you can't see me. I haven't even seen myself yet, so how can you see me? Right? But anyways, what you see is the physical appearance of my body. When you say my body, means that's not me. Right? My water, even if it was not mine, is mine now. My water. This water, am I me? Is water, and this is me. This my, can you see the my? Can you see it from your eyes? My water. You see me? You see water? Where's the my relation? Like, where is that? Can you see with your eyes? No, right? Yes or no? I'm holding it, but can you see that when I say that ownership, am I showing you any certificate? This is mine? Even if I show you the certificate, it's only a mental construct of mine that this is mine. In the physical world, does it exist? It's just a mental construct. It's nothing physical. In physical, it's just these things. If you're going to recite a salawat, I can have some my one. So I'll make this statement because we're running out of time, but whatever your eyes can see is not the dunya that Imam Ali has abased. With me? Whatever these eyes can see are the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With me? Anything that your eye can see is a verse or ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With me? If I was to take, okay, I don't think I have money. If I did have money, I would have taken that out. At least today I don't have it. Can your eyes see this? Yes? because your eyes can see this, this is not the dunya that Imam Ali has abased. Right? It's a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What it is saying is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the ability to a human being to take all of the raw materials, bring it together into a device in the palm of your hand that, you don't need a computer anymore, you don't need a camera anymore, you don't need all of those things are just there. Okay? So far, okay? If there was a Tesla outside, which there isn't, because I know. If there was a Tesla outside and you went and saw it, would that be the dunya that Imam Ali abased? No, because your eyes can see, right? So far, okay? Just on this same train of thought. Anything that your eyes can see is a verse, is an ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's not the world that has been shunned. Now let's come to the world that has been shunned. Right? So the world that has been shunned, if it was not already broken, I would have thrown it and see if it cracks and makes that sound to see what happens to your heart. But it's already broken, so I can't really do anything about it. When your phone falls down and you hear that crack, what happens to your heart? As if your heart is cracked, right? Like as if your heart's broken now. This feeling that you have now with something physical is something which your eyes cannot see. And this feeling that you have got hurt because your phone broke, it is a sign of that dunya that a human being creates based on jealousy, based on arrogance, based on greed, based on fear, based on hurting individuals and also finding pleasure in it. Now basically Majlis is done. Like I've already explained to you the concept. So a person has, let's say, they go to the dealership. Okay? If they have a lot of traveling involved, the gas prices are very expensive, they have the resources, they can, they go and get an electric car, they get a Tesla. Okay. And in the end, they're saving some money and, they're having a comfortable ride, okay, you get a Tesla. But if he goes to the dealership and says, okay, when a person's going to look at this Tesla, they're going to, $80,000 car, $90,000 car. He's going to know that I made it. Everybody on the road is going to look at my Tesla and say, wow. That's why we have those people here too, some of us. Midlife crisis, they will get a Mustang. Why did you get a Mustang? Why did you get, for example, a Porsche? Why did you get a Jaguar? Why did you get this? It's because they could not, they had so many insecurities, and now that they're seeing that the virtual world is ending and they're about 50, 60, they want to make sure that they compensate for that. One of the brothers asked me, could I buy a Lamborghini? I said, buy it. He said, buy it? I said, buy it. He said, but with one condition, if the Lamborghini gets a scratch and your heart breaks, that means you can't have it. Because this Lamborghini now, with the way that you are attached, is going to become a source for you to be debased on the Day of Judgment. Perhaps you might get some honor here, but it will become a source for your debasement, zillat, on the Day of Judgment. So you see, this dunya which Imam is saying, it's an old woman with leprosy holding the intestines of that animal, is created by whom? By men. Based on what raw material? Based on what raw material? I said 5 things. Can anybody tell me? I mean, we made it, so we should know our raw material. Jealousy, greed, fear. We're missing a big one that we make the world inside. Ana, huh? Kibr, takabbur, arrogance, yeah. What else? Finding pleasure in hurting other people. Patience would be a separate world. The world that your eyes cannot see, if you were to make it on these 5 things, it is that world that Imam has said and shunned by all of Ahlul Bayt and all of the awliya of Allah. Right? That's the world. On the other side, let's see. What's the opposite of greed? Contentment. Qanaat, Muslim. Opposite of greed is contentment. Opposite of jealousy is, it's difficult, right? Because what you're wanting the other person to lose what they have. If a person is thankful to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will not be jealous. Okay, so let's say jealousy, thankfulness, being thankful. Okay? Arrogance, opposite of arrogance, humbleness, humility. Okay? What else was there? Fear. You remember Imam Hussain Hassan's tradition that I mentioned to you again, it was in the Jummah khutbah, that people sin Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because out of greed or fear. The opposite of fear is insecurities, okay? And not to be afraid is security. And security is your faith. Okay? So what would be the opposite of fear? Brave, shuja. I said if fear is insecurities and iman is security, then what would be the opposite of fear? Huh? Iman. Right? Because it gives you security. A mu'min is someone who's secure inside and everything around it is also secure from the mu'min. Okay? And I gave you so many examples of it like last speech, okay? So I'm not going back into it. What would be the opposite of hurting people and finding pleasure is helping people and finding pleasure in it. Right? Are we done all 5? I feel like on these 5 you're kind of tired, but when I was mentioning these 5, everybody was attentive, right? Maybe these ones are more familiar to us and this is not. They recited loud salawat so that right? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Okay? Now if you're building your world based on these 5, the world that is going to be built is going to project as heaven. If you're building the world inside on these 5, the world that is going to project is going to be hellfire. You got it? आप सबको हो गया? क्योंकि बहुत आपने आराम से सुना है. These 5 things, if you build the world inside, because the world outside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it. The world that you're going to build inside. If you build it on these 5 things, when it is projected on the day of judgment, what you will see is heaven. And if you build the world on these 5 things inside, on the day of judgment, when it is projected, it will be the hellfire. With me? Now you take this concept, and when you will live your life, there is not going to be deen and dunya. It's not going to be deen and dunya. all of the things that you're doing in your life day to day, they are all going to become deen. Why? Because you're building this dunya inside based on these 5 things and not these 5 things. When you start building the dunya based on these 5 things, then there is dunya and deen. And that's in the distorted virtual world where this is a divide. It's actually all dunya. A person who will do religious acts based on hasad, based on arrogance, based on greed, based on hurting other people and finding pleasure, based on, what was the other one? Fear. If they're doing those things, performing religious things based on these 5 things, you think they're doing religious things? No, it's just same dunya that Imam just abased in his sermons. When you go visit a mu'min, now when we have in traditions mu'min, what is a mu'min and so forth, it requires a bit of explanation. But regardless, just not going into, when you go and visit and you knock on the door, an angel says, Hassan is here to see Muhammad. The other angel says, don't say Hassan is here to see Muhammad, Hassan is here to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning the meeting of 2 people who are believers is a religious thing. When you sit down and eat and you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and you start eating, right? That eating is not a worldly thing. It's actually now a religious thing. When you raise your children with the intention that I want my children to become noble, pious, dignified, courageous, content, thankful, humble, loving individuals, you're not doing a worldly thing, you're now doing a religious thing. Chahte? Or maybe these things I should have said in Urdu. ठीक है? When you go study, this is not a worldly thing. If you're studying and you're learning and you're looking at the knowledge that you're gaining, that look, mashallah, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this and I'm learning, and you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not a worldly study, that's actually religious studies. When you're looking at the verses, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chemistry, in physics, in biology, in life sciences, in microbiology, in IT, in networking, in cybersecurity, whatever. And you start looking at, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the ability to a human being to be able to do, and this is what his system is created. It's not a worldly knowledge. It's a religious knowledge. So you see these realities, this is the real world. If you don't take this path, then whatever it is nothing but just the virtual world, distorted reality, living in it, and then one day finding out that all that we did just remained here and we are going empty-handed. See? So definition of dunya, everything that your eye sees is not dunya. Other ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you cannot see with these eyes is what we create inside, based on those qualities. And what we create projects on the Day of Judgment as the hellfire. Now if you look at the camp of Imam Hussain, the companions of Imam Hussain were shakir. They were humble. They were qani. They were content. They were with their Imam, who was their heaven. Imam Hussain was their success. Imam Hussain was the measuring scale for their animosity and friendship. If Imam Hussain, you're against, you are my enemy. Even if you are my mother, my father, my brother, my cousin, whoever you are, if you're against Imam Hussain, you are my enemy. And if you're with Imam Hussain, you are my friend. If I help Imam Hussain, I am successful. If I don't help Imam Hussain, I am unsuccessful. To me, helping Imam Hussain is my heaven. Leaving Imam Hussain is my hell. Their life was that. They stood with Imam Hussain. And the other individuals? Arrogance. You know, the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shot the first arrow, telling everybody that, you know, I'm the one who shot the first arrow. He is proud of the fact that he shot the first arrow towards the camp of Imam Hussain, and he's wanting witnesses. So that when the time for distribution of wealth and government is there can be witnesses who can say that, yeah, he was the first person to shoot the arrow towards the camp of Imam Hussain. If you look at those individuals who are against Imam Hussain, their world inside was built on these five. On jealousy. I mean, the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, Yazid, cursed Yazid, he comes on the minbar and says there was no religion. It was just a play, Bani Hashim played for power. And then he says, you know, see how I have taken revenge for the blood of my forefathers. He was jealous. Arrogantly sitting on his throne, and then he has a severed head of the grandson of the Prophet in his feet on a platter. On top of that, he has a stick in his hand. And then the next sentence is hard to say. And when he's showing this display of arrogance, there was a Christian, he stood up. Said, what are you doing? Say, what are you doing? This is the head of you severed the head of the grandson of the Prophet, your Prophet. His head is where your feet are. In a platter. And this is what you're doing? Right where I'm from, we have the toenail of an animal upon which Hazrat Isa ﷺ used to ride. The level of respect and reverence that we show to it when we bring it out, people want to kiss it, they show their reverence to it, they respect that toenail of that animal. What has happened to you? What has happened to you that you're doing this? How can anybody be more arrogant than that? Greed. Shimmer comes, he looks at Bibi Sakina, he sees some glitter here, something shiny. Yes, it's a 4-year-old girl. She has some earrings. How much would they be worth? How much would they be worth? How much gold can you get out of that? And the way he snatched them. The way he snatches them. Then in his hand is now the earring. But what he has left is blood on the ear of Bibi Sakina. What could be more greed? Hurting others and find pleasure. You're sitting on the chest of the grandson of the Prophet. And he's an individual who's telling you, do you not know who I am? Am I not the grandson of the Prophet? Am I not the son of Ali? Am I not the son of Fatima? Do you not know me? Why are you doing this? What are you going to get out of this? Do you not want the intercession of my grandfather? Don't do this. Someone who's so kind, someone who's so merciful, he is in pain right now. He has wounds on his body. He is thirsty for 3 days. These are the last breaths that he is taking. The enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's trying to protect this enemy that stop doing this. You will get nothing out of it. You won't get the intercession of my grandfather. Just stop. He's thinking for whom? The enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you will not get intercession. Having children as prisoners? From where, in which world is this okay? In which world is it okay to have an orphan, and instead of comforting the orphan, that you make that orphan a prisoner? That this little daughter of Imam Hussain would stand, and she would stand at the door. She would stand at the door at the wall of the prison, and she would see the birds going. And she would ask, Mother, she would ask, where are these birds going? And the mother would reply to her daughter, they're going home. Meaning these birds have permission to go home. Right? As the daughter of Imam Hussain asking the mother, when are we going to go home? And the mother at that time did not know. The mother says, I don't know. The mother did not know that this daughter of mine that is saying, when are we going to go home? I will go home, but she will not. That there will come a time when she is going to fall down with the severed head of her father, and she will have a lifeless body, a cold body in the prison, and we would have to bury her with our own hands, without a shroud. We would have to make a grave for her, and one day I would have to even leave that grave. I would have to go back home without her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is very hard to bear. We repeat these things every year, over and over again. We hear these things over and over again, and our hearts become hardened. How can our hearts hear that and we still be alive? We have to make ourselves hard enough to hear this. We have to bear it. We have to be patient. We want to see that day where we don't repeat this and cry, but we take revenge for this. We want the Imam of our time, so that with him we can take revenge for the blood and the hardships of Imam Hussain and his family and companions. Oh, Jesus.
Bawafa ya Abbas, Bawafa ya Abbas, Bawafa ya Abbas, باوفا یا عباس سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی جگہ جگہ ہے علم گواہی دلوں پہ تیری ہے بادشاہی جگہ جگہ ہے علم گواہی دلوں پہ تیری ہے بادشاہی لبوں پہ تیرا امام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے تیرے علم کا ہے ہم پہ سایہ علم پہ سایہ ہے پنجتن کا تیرے علم کا ہے ہم پہ سایہ علم پہ سایہ ہے پنجتن کا بلند تیرا مقام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام علم کا جو بسے ہوا ہے سایہ زمین کربو بلا پہ مولا علم کا جو بسے ہوا ہے سایہ زمین کربو بلا پہ مولا تیرا ہے چلتا نظام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی تو باوفا ہے تو لافتہ ہے بے آسروں کا تو آسرا ہے تو باوفا ہے تو لافتہ ہے بے آسروں کا تو آسرا ہے جہاں میں چرچا ہے عام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی حسین مولا سے پیار کرنا حسین پر جا نثار کرنا حسین مولا سے پیار کرنا حسین پر جا نثار کرنا یہی ہے تیرا پیام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی غازی امام غازی جو تیرے بازو قلم نہ ہوتے اسیر اہل حرم نہ ہوتے جو تیرے بازو قلم نہ ہوتے اسیر اہل حرم نہ ہوتے نجاتی سے نام یہ شام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے غلام شرمندہ ہے یہ مولا لاش خیموں میں لے کے جانا غلام شرمندہ ہے یہ مولا لاش خیموں میں لے کے جانا طلب تیرے کلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی یا حسین
جب شام کے زنداں میں ہوئی شام حرم کو ایک آن نہ راحت تھی نہ آرام حرم کو ہر بار ٹپکتا تھا لہو اشک رواں سے، زندان لرزتا تھا، زندان لرزتا تھا سکینہ کی فواں سے، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، کتنی راتیں گزر گئیں بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، چھوٹے سے سن میں قیدیے زندان ہو گئی بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، دل میں جو میرے درد ہے خالق کے ہے آیا، کس کو کہوں میں باپ، میرا باپ ہے کہاں، تم بے کفن میں بے سرو سامان ہو گئی بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، کیا کیا نہ خلق کل میں حکارت کے کہہ گئی، میں بے کسی سے دیکھ کے منہ سب کا رہ گئی، کرتا پھٹا ہوا میرا پہچان ہو گئی بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا، نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، گر راہ کی تو شمر پکارا خاموش ہو، اور چپ ہوئی تو بے پدری نے کہا کہ رو، ان آفتوں میں گھیر کے پریشان ہو گئی بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا، کیوں نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، بے جرم کان زخمی ہوئے اور تماچے کھائے، جو چاہے مجھ فلک کی ستائی کو پھر ستائے، شہزادی حسین کی یہ شان ہو گئی بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا، میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، اللہ جانے کہاں ہو اے بابا، صدقے گئی بتاؤ کہاں ہے میرے پدر، آئے پدر تو جائے سکینہ بھی اپنے گھر، کیوں ایسے ظالموں کی مہمان ہو گئی بابا میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ بابا میں کیوں نہ آپ پہ قربان ہو گئی اللہ جانے کہاں وہ ہے بابا
Say,